respected CEO, principals, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Unikrishnan, Mr. Jason Joy, all the other teachers present, and my dear young bright minds that are present here today. I will be sharing with you all my journey, my corporate career journey, throwing in some real life stories as well in between so that you get a perspective out of it. Throughout my presentation, the underlying concept will be I am not a product of my circumstances. I'm a product of my decisions. All of you know that life will throw curveballs at you. You know, they say make lemonade out of the lemons thrown at you. So it has its ups and downs. I always say it's like a snake and ladder board. Most of the time it goes, you know, one number to the other. Sometimes you get a steep ladder up, sometimes you get a snake down. So you have to learn to face everything in life and go on and become a success in life. So I will again repeat the underlying concept, and the whole presentation today will be, I'm not a victim. Instead of saying product, I'll say I'm not a victim of my circumstances. I'm actually a product of my own decisions. I can carve my life for myself. So starting from, say, forwarding 5 to 10 years from where you're at the moment, I remember sitting for my MBA exam, and FACT, that was one of the big organizations in Kerala at that time. They would hold these management trainee all India level exams every year. In fact, my father, I'm sure your parents are very involved in your lives at the moment. My father, in fact, applied on my behalf before my final exam could be over for MBA. Sat for the entrance exam, went for the group discussion interview, got through. So that was a big thing those days. As soon as you finish your education, if you've got a job with a good organization, you're supposed to be set for life. That was one big ladder in my life then. Life as management trainee in FACT, you couldn't ask for anything better. You get trained in all aspects of management. Those days, Kerala Management Association would hold a competition for young managers. You know, all the youngsters from different organizations around Indal, TCC, Binani, FACT, they would all participate. So 2 of my male colleagues and I, we decided to participate in that year's competition. I remember it was called, the topic was changing profile of the Indian manager. So we prepared our presentation. We actually won the award that year. It was called the Young Manager of the Year Award. Another ladder in my career life. The award giving ceremony was a big affair. I remember the then Chief Minister, Mr. K. Karnakaran, was the chief guest. Between the 3 of us, the 2 male colleagues and me, we had decided Roshan, one of my male colleagues, would go up and accept the award on behalf of the team and give the acceptance speech. So when it was time to give away the award, the MC announced, we request the lady of the team to come forward and receive the award. And I remember my mind going blank. I just froze. I was not prepared. I remember walking like a zombie up to the stage, went up there and said, you know, some stupid stuff like, even now when I look back, I can, you know, feel the goosebumps on my flesh. I made it look like, you know, our team wasn't great. All the other teams are so much better. Thank you so much for giving us the award, you know, as if they had done us a favor. I knew I had made a big mess of the whole thing. I remember walking down feeling very bad. I even overheard an executive director, you know, saying, so it was a big snake in my career, the first snake in my career. My whole ego was deflated. And I remember, you know, sitting with it. It made such an impact on my life that I decided, you know, all of us have our strengths and weaknesses. It is up to us to decide what's our strength and nurture it further. And weakness, try to see what you can do about it. So I realized then it left such an impact on me. I sat and dissected it, and I realized that one of my weaknesses is if I'm not prepared, it is difficult for me to make a public presentation. So ever since, if there's a remotest chance of me having to speak in public, I make sure I'm prepared. 90% of the time I don't have to speak, but because of this instance, I make sure I am prepared just so that I can succeed in life as we go forward as well. Another thing I would like to share with you all is fear. Fear is, anytime you face a dilemma in life, I feel there are two birds sitting on your shoulders. One keeps encouraging you. That is the positive bird. You can call it the angel. And there is the negative bird. The negative bird will throw negative stuff at you, saying, oh my God, look at all the people sitting there. What are you going to say? You're not prepared. Whereas a positive bird encourages you. We were good at, we had actually won the award, but I let fear overcome my confidence. So this was the first real life story that I wanted to share with you all, that life will throw curveballs at you, but you can overcome them, with persistence and presence of mind. Understand your weaknesses and move forward. All was not lost then. I remember, because we had won the award, the chairman and managing director actually selected me and another team member of mine, a male colleague. We actually were in his office. It gave us a bird's eye view of how top management functions at that very early stage of our careers. We enjoyed it. It spoiled me for life though, because after that, I never enjoyed my career as much as I did then. Moving forward, and then I moved to the UAE after 12 years in FACT, which was a lovely career growth time. Again, UAE, I remember those days, there was a bit of discrimination. Or I was looking for a job. I had come looking for a job to the UAE. The wanted ads would all say UK, US educated needed, or native English speaker needed. So there was discrimination. I had decided that since I had a good job back home, I will not accept any, a small job. I had set a limit for the salary level that I would request for at every interview. And I still remember at one of the interviews, when I said, this is the salary I'm looking for, the interviewer actually turned around and told me, your Indian Prime Minister doesn't earn that much. How can you ask for that? So there was discrimination there those days. Now things have improved. Indians have much more of a stand here. I still remember one of my close friends back home asking me, how can you live in a country which treats you like a second-class citizen? But then in life, to achieve things, you have to go through certain difficulties as well. And then after the initial struggle, I got a job with the free zone. Getting a job in a free zone is good. And then I moved into Shell. Shell is, of course, a great company to work for. Very employee-friendly, lots of learning and development opportunities, good career growth opportunities. Again, that was, again, a good ladder in my snake and ladder board of life, till the proverbial entrepreneurial bug bit me. I remember while in Shell, I was exposed to this concept of sustainable development. Now, sustainable development is nothing but making sure that the natural resources that you are enjoying today, that Mother Nature has blessed you with today, making sure you use them so responsibly that the generations to come, your children, your grandchildren, they also get to enjoy equal amount of these natural resources. It can be food, water, energy. So while in Shell, the concern was by 2050, the known fossil fuel reserves would be exhausted. So imagine life without energy, without petrol, without light, without Wi-Fi. So they were looking at different ways of countering that through alternative sources of energy like solar, wind, through renewable sources of energy. While all this was going on, I remember thinking, what about water? Water is so much more critical. And they say by 2030, 1/3 of the world will have no access to drinking water. So can you imagine, that's just 8 years down the line? Already you can see Brazil, Cape Town, etc. have already reached day zero. So when I would walk down where I stay in the morning, I would see water flowing down. This is cars being washed. So I felt wasting water on mundane things like washing cars, etc. I became very conscious about wastage of water after I was exposed to that aspect. So when I came across this concept, this was a US-based company that had this concept of keeping cars clean without wasting a single drop of water. I loved the concept. And that's when I decided to resign from my lucrative job and set this company up in the UAE. Greenshine offers waterless and organic, not just cleaning, but detailing services as well. For example, a seed shampoo, which wastes gallons of water. In our case, it's a totally dry operation. You're inside a spick and span. I'm not going into the different other things that we do. But now we have set it up at different places. Our objective is to get at least 20% of car and bike owners to use waterless waste for keeping their cars clean, which I think we are on the road to achieve. Though I can say that we are now, in a sort of a comfortable position. We are actually in the midst of a big project, but you can never sit down saying, I've achieved what I wanted to. Success is always a journey. It's never a destination. I remember when I first set up Greenshine, I had resigned. I tried to apply for a trade license. It was rejected. Imagine, that was another ladder a snake in my career. Rejected because it was a totally new concept. Then I had to translate it into Arabic, meet the higher up at the economic department. And when it was explained to him what we would be doing for the nation, they happily accepted and gave the license. Similarly, when I tried to apply for staff, I needed staff for this. I remember there also we had problems, so we had to take contract staff. And then the biggest problem was getting customers to use our services. As I mentioned, wash is synonymous with water. So how can you wash without water? It was a total mindset change that was required. I remember initially we would hold free demos. Customers would come to us, ask us to try out a small portion, and they would always think it would be scratched. Their cars would get scratched. But then they would say, try out a little more. And now, after all those difficult parts while setting it up, now when we see customers coming to us to, they don't go anywhere else. They only come to us to get their cars cleaned. The satisfaction you get then is incomparable. So if I'm trying to now compare a corporate life with the entrepreneurial life, I will not say that a corporate life or I will not put my weight behind either of them. Both have their pluses and minuses. Corporate life is more secure. You have your salary coming at the end of the month. You have different departments to support you with everything. Entrepreneurial life, yes, you are alone. You, in fact, have to give out salaries at the end of the month. But then, as I just mentioned, the satisfaction of achievement, I'm sure you all have come across Maslow's theory of hierarchy. That achievement is something that gives you a real high, and that you don't normally get in corporate life. But then I would say, wherever you are, both have their pluses and minuses. And entrepreneur, again, instead of waiting for the government or somebody else to give you a job when you finish your education, you're taking life into your hands. You are setting up your own organization. You are actually providing employment to others. So both have their pluses and minuses. I would say wherever you are, make sure you live to your full potential. You have been gifted with, each has their own weaknesses and strengths, as I mentioned. So find out what your talents are, your strengths are, and live to your full potential. Do not compare with others. Do not get into the rat race. You live to your full potential. Through my, if any of you here are interested in becoming entrepreneur, I would just like to share a few tips on how to go about the thing. Always select something you're very passionate about. Select a course you're very passionate about. That will keep you going when things do turn a little difficult. Passionate, but take a calculated passion. Do your research. Make sure it is a product that will be needed by the market. Is it the right place that you're rolling it out? Define your target customer. Then do all your promotion, your pricing, everything based on that target customer. Is there competition for your product here? What is the unique selling proposition about your product? Is it upscalable? Or is it that you can only do it in that small place that you have? Is your market big enough? Can you grow your market further? Can you, for example, Greenshine, we started it in the UAE. We now have it in Bahrain, Saudi, Kuwait, etc. Be financially prepared. Make sure you have, it is not that it's going to give you returns right from the first month. So be prepared for at least 6 months. Make plans. Make a weekly plan, make monthly plan, make yearly plan, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year plans. Have proper plans in place, but also be conscious that you have to be flexible. Plans never work normally. It is just to keep you prepared. So I keep saying it is like a river, a new river that is charting its own course. It cannot go straight the way it wants. Wherever it finds some space, it charts its own course. So you will have to be flexible the same way. Again, one major thing is do not start off big. Yeah, always make your plan and then start small, see how it is succeeding, see that you're able to put money back into your business, and then start building it further and further, keep spreading it. A lot of startups go bust right in the beginning of the first year itself, because they're so excited, they go big, and then they're not able to support it further. Never take emotional decisions. Always sleep through, when there's a difficult decision to take. For example, if one of your staff members comes and says, my mother has a problem, you have to have policies in place. Do not go by emotional decisions, which you have been doing all along. But once you set up your own enterprise, have systems and policies in place. Persevere. You cannot give up at the first sign of failure. You have to keep persevering. Reach out for help. Have different, I have mentors in different places. Still, I go to them when I have certain difficulty in taking certain decisions. So I sit with them, work it out. So always pick on others' brains. And remember to give yourself some time. Again, when you're an entrepreneur, you are so engrossed in what you're doing that you tend to forget that you need some time to yourself as well. Give yourself rest, otherwise you will burn out very fast. So again, as I said, as an entrepreneur, one of the advantages of becoming an entrepreneur is you actually do break free shackles that you have developed in your life as you grow, as you come across failures. You must have all come across the story of this man coming across a huge elephant which was tethered to the bark of a tree with a small rope. He was very intrigued seeing that, because the elephant is so strong, it can easily break the rope and run away. So he went and asked the mahout, how come it's not, exercising its strength and running away? So the mahout explains to him that as a baby elephant, it was tied with the small, tiny rope, and it was strong enough to keep it within that radius. But as it was growing, it forgot that it was actually acquiring more strength. Its mind was so conditioned to the fact that this tiny rope could actually hold it back that it never tried further. Similarly, this is another experiment you all can actually go back and try at home. If you put certain insects into a glass jar and put the lid on, initially you'll find a lot of activity. It'll keep hitting against the lid. Till after some time, it slowly starts adjusting to its limited conditions. And so much so that even if you remove the lid, you will find that it'll only come up till there and go down. It doesn't realize that it has actually the freedom to get out of the bottle. So this is what happens with our lives as well. When we come across certain limitations in life, we get conditioned to that. And then we forget to revisit, those decisions. Our circumstances would have changed. So, for example, when I came from Kerala to the UAE, I was still shackled by certain limitations that certain societal conditions had set on my mind. As an entrepreneur, what happens is it's like being thrown into a river and you learn to swim. So you actually break free those shackles, these self-imposed blockers, and you live to your full potential. That is the biggest thing I find, the advantage I find about becoming an entrepreneur. I feel I'm using the talents that the Almighty has blessed me with to the full at the moment. So always be grounded. You will all do well. After the initial difficulties, I'm sure all of you will find success. But when you do find success, remember to stay grounded. Remember that gifts are God-given. It is not something great that you have done. You have lived to your full potential, but stay grounded. One thing I'm happy about being with y'all today is y'all are at that stage of life when your minds are young and impressionable. I remember the stage. I was so gung-ho, full of life, out to go and conquer the world. And one of my aunts, I remember she used to, out of concern, she would keep saying, what you're showing is the courage of the ignorant. She would keep saying, she was worried that I would go and get hurt, hurt myself. So she would keep saying, be careful. Don't, what you're showing is the courage of the ignorant. But I would like to reword that now and say it is actually the courage of the unconditioned mind. So right now, you're at that stage. I would say, go out there, conquer the world, there will be careful, plan things out, but live to your full potential. So with that, I will leave the floor open to any questions yet that you all might have.
This is the time for interaction, students as well as teachers.
Now I request all students who have questions to ask to please proceed.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes. Hi.
My name is Esther and I'm from grade 7B. I would like to ask you a question.
Sure.
What inspired you to develop this idea?
You're talking about my business currently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. As I said, while I was in Shell, I realized, that the need for sustainable development and water, forget energy. Shell, for that there was a big organization thinking about that. But water, I could see, wherever we are, we all waste water in our daily life. When you're brushing your teeth, for example, you leave the tap open, you don't think you're wasting water. When you're I don't know, gardening, you have the garden hose on, you just leave it on for plants. If you look around, if you're conscious, you'll find you're wasting water in umpteen ways. And to think that already you must have seen between Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, there are the border fights happening for water, for sharing river water. In fact, the UN Vice President, I remember, had mentioned in the last century that if in this century wars are being fought over oil, in the next century wars will be fought over water. So it is a very critical resource. And if we are not careful, even your generation, you all are just starting life, maybe my generation will pass on before we really see the critical nature of want for water, the scarcity for water. In your generation, you will see scarcity of water if we are not careful. So that is when I realized that wasting water on something as mundane as keeping your car looking good is absolutely criminal. And when I came across this concept, it's a young gentleman from the US who actually who set up this concept. So when I saw it, I thought I would love to roll it out here in the UAE. In the UAE, if you all have come here, you must have seen that people believe in keeping their cars looking good, all shining, no scratches, nothing. So I thought this is a good place to set it up, and I will contribute to saving a lot more water wasted by the auto care industry if I do it here. That's how I set it up here.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. One more question I would like to ask you. What advice would you give to someone who wants to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so as I think, there was this slide. Let me just go back to that. Lots of advice. As I told you, it's a great journey to be on. Being an entrepreneur, it is extremely satisfying. But you don't forget that you have to generate your own revenue. When you get a job, if you finish your education and you're starting out with a job on your own, you're getting your salary at the end of the month. In this case, you are the one generating the income. Not only are you generating for yourself, you're generating for staff you might employ. So you have to be very careful that what you select is something that you can continue doing. So do your planning. Yeah, is it something that, the 4 P's of marketing? I'm sure you'll come across all that later in your educational life. The product, the price, the place, the promotion. Is it the right product? Am I rolling it out at the right place? For example, I could have rolled this out in India. But then, though it is a social enterprise, I feel it has to stay profitable on its own. It has to be a self-supporting unit. So I need to be in a market where people will spend a lot of money on keeping their cars looking good. And I thought UAE was a good market for that. That is why I set it up here. That is why I selected this place. So similarly, you have to do your planning well before you start anything. Have the right idea, see if it'll work. Is it something that you can grow further? Are there other players in the market who are already rolling it out? Do your market research. Is there competition? If there is competition, what is different about what you're going to roll out? So will that help you, keep competition at bay? Is it something others can easily follow? Because if it's a good idea, normally what happens is in 1 or 2 years' time, somebody else will also set it up at a cheaper price, spoiling your market. So is it something which is, that somebody else can actually copy and roll it out in the market? Make sure you have enough funds to at least last you for 6 months, because you're not going to start making money right from day one. Yeah, so these are some of the basic things. And as I said, don't start off big. Don't start off big. Start small, test the market, see how it is going. And then as you start making margins, roll that money back into your business and then start, make it grow big. I have been here now for 8 years. I started with 1 unit first. The next year, I started the second unit and so on. So it was all a very slow and gradual process. Now I never would take on big projects because I knew that called for a lot of funds. This is the 1 year that I've actually taken on a big project. This is the 8th year that I've done it.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Most welcome. Are you planning to become an entrepreneur, Esther?
Yeah, ma'am. I'm thinking about it.
Good.
Ma'am?
Yes?
Ma'am, my name is Abhijit. I am from East Level. So
Right.
I wanted to ask you something that what all qualities should be there in a person to become a good entrepreneur?
Very good question, Abhijit. Initially, long back, they would say a manager can be made, but an entrepreneur has to be born. They say you have to be born with certain characteristics to become an entrepreneur. For example, you have to be risk-taking to become an entrepreneur. Somebody who's cautious and careful, they say cannot become an entrepreneur. Take Richard Branson, for example. He thinks big, or Bill Gates, or, any of these people Elon Musk. So they all, Richard Branson, for example, they say his first business failed. Yeah. So that is the old school of thought. I feel it is not necessary that an entrepreneur has to be born. For example, I am a very cautious person. I'm extremely careful where I put my money. I started my career in the corporate world. I got experience in various fields of management before I started this, and I adapted, I changed. So I believe that you can actually be educated to become an entrepreneur as well. These days, I think the curriculum does have subjects on how to become an entrepreneur, because the world needs entrepreneurs. You can't just rely on others to give you jobs or the government to give you jobs. The world needs these small and medium SMEs, as they call them, or entrepreneurs. That is the only way you'll come up with new, fresh ideas. All of you, I know, are brimming with ideas. You have to be encouraged to actually implement them, roll them out. Otherwise, the world is losing out on great ideas. So I will not say you have to be born with certain qualities. You have to be a little risk-taking, yes. But then be careful with what you, be careful with the risk you're taking. That is the only quality that an entrepreneur should have. Other than that, as I just mentioned in the slide, different things that you have to be, do not let your limitations, the limitations of your mind control you, but be careful. I don't want any of you to start out and then, fail in the first year. A lot of startups do. They say 80% of entrepreneurs actually fail. Those who continue for 5 years, the threshold they say is 5 years. If you've been able to survive 5 years, then you're able to go on and things like that. So be careful. Of course, you have to give wings to your great ideas, but be careful as you roll them out. These are I actually covered all these. Be careful as you roll out your ideas.
Yes, miss.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure. Who's that? Manas?
Yeah. What's the most important thing that you need to look out for in this industry?
What's the most in which industry? In the
Like in entrepreneur industry.
What is the most important what?
important thing you need to look out for, like something that you need to be careful about, or like something, like.
Yeah. I would say, as I told you, people start out all excited. They had this great idea. Even in the UAE, you find lots of people setting up businesses. You will see something on the one big board somewhere, and in 2 years' time, you find that's not there anymore. So you have to be extremely careful about growing your bottom. There are different things that entrepreneurs have to be careful about, but to me, if you're asking me the one most important thing, Manas, I would say grow your bottom line, not your top line. Do not start off anything with huge, trying to roll it out everywhere. Do not start off big. Do not look at growing your revenue first. Look at growing your margins first. So keep your costs down, control your costs. As your bottom line grows, flow that back into your business, and then grow your business further. Do not start off your big idea. You're excited, yes, but careful how you roll it out. Do not start off big. Try to bring in money. The business should become self-generating, able to stand on its own feet before you start growing it big and wide. That's the one most important thing I would say you have to be careful about.
Okay, thank you.
Most welcome.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
My name is Samuel. I'm from grade 9.
Hi, Samuel.
I would like to ask you, what do you find most challenging about being an entrepreneur?
Lots of things. Since I have an experience of being in the corporate world as well as in this world, I remember initially when I left Shell and I started this, I would miss going to work every morning, miss going to work, getting up 8 o'clock. I would be in the office. I would miss talking to, equally, people at your same level, the cerebral, intellectually satisfying discussions that we would have, meetings, telecons. This, I'm on my own. I would sit at home, sit on my computer. I was a hard worker, so I would make sure I'm still working from 8 to 6, but then I missed meeting people. So, the advantage of meeting people is you're throwing ideas, you're brainstorming, so your mind is growing. So I found solution for that. I slowly became member of Dubai Business Women's Council. I joined a lot of networking groups. I would go out for meetings with them, attend conferences, seminars, etc., so that I could get that intellectual growth which I was missing a lot. That was one thing I found difficult. Two, of course, the biggest thing is, as a corporateur, I would get my big fat salary at the end of the month regularly. This no salary coming in, I had to actually I had to make sure I had enough to give out to my staff. So that is the other big challenge I was facing. But as I keep telling you, the satisfaction you get once you've set it up in a careful way, the satisfaction you get when you see customers. I see loyal customers. These same customers who would initially hesitate to give their cars to us. I find them coming only to us because they know that water wash leaves soil marks on their cars. In our case, absolutely no risk of scratches. So that satisfaction is incomparable. You don't get it anywhere else. So.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Yeah, ma'am, myself, Girija, and I'm a faculty of Rajas International Public School. And ma'am, the most wonderful thing I found in you, the level of confidence and the way you face challenges. And as a lady, I know that how much struggle you have taken in your life. And I'm really proud that right now I'm talking to a wonderful personality like you. And I personally, yeah, ma'am, you really deserve that. And I personally thank Kurichy sir and Johnson sir who have arranged such a wonderful session. Ma'am, everyone knows that jobs are almost to vanish in the coming years. Neither the corporates nor the government have enough vacancy to fulfill the needs of job vacancies in our society. So entrepreneur is a concept which should be implemented in our students from the growing stage itself, because when they face a challenge in their coming years, they won't get distracted from what their ideas they are having. So from the beginning stage, if we have a concept like entrepreneur, and the things that you have pointed out is really helpful to them if they pointed that out very seriously. And the most thing is you have to believe in yourself, and that is what I personally felt in you, because you were very confident in yourself and you believe in yourself. Though you have made so many of sacrifices, you have to sacrifice many things. You already told that. Yeah, definitely. So this is just a part of, if you want to become a successful entrepreneur, then definitely, if you do any kinds of job, definitely you will get a month of salary at the end of every month. And if you really want to enjoy the profit, then definitely you have to go for an option for entrepreneur. So thank you so much, ma'am, for guiding our students personally, and really, really thank you.
Most welcome, Girija. I really appreciate those words. Yes, it is not an easy journey, but I don't regret it one bit. It's been a great journey with all its ups and downs. As I said, all of us human beings, we all thrive on that higher level of satisfaction that you get when you achieve something. I think that is enough for keeping entrepreneurs going. And as you rightly pointed out, we do need more entrepreneurs in the world. You must be noticing that most governments in all countries are trying to encourage entrepreneurship, because they know, if everybody waits for the government or other organizations to give them jobs, it is not going to happen as the world progresses. We need more and more entrepreneurs. And as I mentioned earlier, people, youngsters especially, the age group that we're talking to now, they are brimming with ideas. They have so many. When I talk to my son, he has so many ideas, but then all of them get bogged down with the initial years of responsibilities. They get married, children. I'm not saying you should shirk your responsibilities, but entrepreneurship is becoming more and more of a way of life, because there are studies, there's education. I think there are subjects on entrepreneurship now being taught in schools. So yeah, so I'm glad.
Implemented among the students that he gave 1,000 rupees to students and asked them they can spend in any way, but they are given task that how they can make at least 1 rupee more than this 1,000. So how they can utilize this 1,000. Yeah, it was a wonderful kind of idea implemented in between the students, and it is slowly implementing in our education levels, ma'am. And definitely in our coming education system, we will develop definitely a small entrepreneurs which will be grow in a wide range.
I'm sure. If today we have, you and I together, Girija, if we have encouraged some of the students at least to become entrepreneurs, I think we've done our job. In the UAE, they say 80% of jobs are provided by small and medium enterprises like mine. It's only 20% that these big organizations offer. So every country needs entrepreneurs.
Thank you for this wonderful words and for guiding our students so strongly. I would say that.
Thank you. Thanks, Girija, for those lovely words.
Ma'am, my name is Samuel again. I would like to ask you one more.
Yes, Samuel.
How do you define success as an entrepreneur?
Again, good question. They say ROI, any business, return on investment is how you would, in a very conventional way, see if you're successful. The investment, if you have invested 100,000, what is your return on that? That is how you normally measure success. But then now there are different ways of measuring success. For example, a social enterprise like mine, we have something called SROI, which is social return on investment. Now, I can look at what is my margin at the end of each month after all my expenses. To that, SROI is something where you add, for example, a component. That's again, it's there in all these different universities. They have this SROI concept. So you add a component to your margin where you're actually contributing to conservation of a scarce resource, water. It's a sustainable development initiative. So it is added to that. Similarly, there are big organizations or governments supporting these kind of social enterprises, for example, or any other idea that you might have, which the world needs today, if you can prove to them that the world needs it today. So they support by subsidizing it. So they help you with some money coming in so that you are able to reach this concept to the customer without the customer having to pay. too much. For example, since mine is organic, if somebody brings their car to us, ours is a little more expensive than a normal water wash. But then it would have been great if the government would subsidize it. For example, when petrol was, lesser lead petrol was rolled out, it was subsidized so that customers would be encouraged to buy that petrol rather than, cost of pollution in the market. So you can't say I have reached the top of the mountain and I'm successful and sit. Any business or any enterprise that stays stagnant without growing, without seeing what's happening in the rest of the world. Today, as you all know, the growth is exponential. The rate of growth is huge. So if you don't keep an eye on what's happening around you and grow your business accordingly, you will soon be eaten up, overtaken. So you can't reach any point in your entrepreneurial journey saying I've reached the pinnacle of my objective, I'm successful, I can now relax and reap the benefits. No, you have to constantly be on your toes, see what your competitors are doing, keep changing. How cameras are no longer nobody needs a camera anymore. So the world is changing at a very fast pace. So you cannot say I've reached success. So long as you're able to provide employment to others, so long as you're able to be a self-sustaining business on your own, you don't have to depend on your family's money or government subsidy, etc., to keep your business going. So long as you're generating enough margin, all these I would say are measures of success. And if you're contributing, say, to a social cause, there are different parameters now. It's not just the conventional return on investment as it used to be earlier.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, and one more. What do you consider non-negotiable in your business?
Quality. I feel quality of the service or the product that you give it has to be non-negotiable. For example, especially after the pandemic, I find that a lot of things are available in the market pretty cheap because cash flow is a little less in the market today. A lot of job losses were there, etc. So everything is negotiated for. We find anything that we roll out, people come and want discounts, etc. We might give a slight discount, but that doesn't mean we will compromise on quality there. Quality of your product or service will give you long-term benefit. You might short-term, if you compromise on your quality, for example, maybe, dilute our product because we're reducing the price, dilute the product and compromise on quality. In the long run, these same customers who have been loyal to you will stop coming to you. So quality is something I feel is something that cannot be compromised on. That is non-negotiable.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am?
Yes?
Yeah, I am Abhijit.
Yes, Abhijit. Hi.
I wanted to ask another question. Like, how do you
I can
build
see
your...
that Abhijit and Samuel and all of you are going to become entrepreneurs, I think. Go ahead, Abhijit.
Yeah, like I wanted to ask, how do you build your own good customer base? Like loyal customers?
Yeah. So one is you can have a great product, but if you have not created exposure for your product or for your service, how will others know you have something like this? As I said, ours was a totally new concept. We needed a total mindset change to get people to try us out. So we had to go in for different ways. Now there are very cost-effective ways like social media. Like earlier you had to do, conventional advertising like electronic, TV, radio, press advertising, all pretty expensive. Now social media is so cost-effective. On Facebook or Instagram, you can actually promote your services without even spending any money. So I actually do Google AdWords. I've kept a limit of 20 dirhams per day. So it adds up to hardly 600 dirhams in a month. And it gets me the return on investment on that investment that I make on Google AdWords is amazing. I get so many calls based on that. So you have to create exposure for your, no point in having a great product if your market does not know you have this. So find different cost-effective ways of, it can be word of mouth. For example, when I said earlier, quality is non-negotiable, when people realize that there is something of quality available here. We have a whole lot of word of mouth customers. One person does it. So when they come back to me saying, well, fantastic service, I tell them, please tell your friends. So word of mouth, nothing like word of mouth. That is like you're telling your friend, you know, I went to this restaurant, great food. So your friend trusts your taste and your friend will definitely go. So different ways of, you have to create exposure. There are now, thankfully, cost-effective methods of doing it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And then build your database. You know, database is the most precious commodity at the moment. So every time a customer comes to you, make sure your staff take their telephone number, email ID. You must be seeing wherever you go, they ask for your mobile number. It can be quite irritating, but nothing like having a database so you can shoot off WhatsApp messages each time you have a promotion, you know, things like that. So build a database as well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, miss.
Most welcome.
My name is Esther, yeah, and one more question I would like to ask you.
Yeah.
How long did it take for you to reach success?
Yeah, so again, there is no hard and fast time to reach success. The first place that I started this, I started it in a mall. It was a total disaster in the sense it was not the right place. You know, it was actually in a place where it is more of not many car owners. It was more labor accommodation, etc. But then I needed to start it somewhere. It was a totally new concept. Nobody would give me a place to start it. So I just started it there. But I realized it was not going to be successful. So while we were there, it gave us exposure though. So while we were there, because the service was of such high quality, we had inquiries coming in. So from there, we actually started it in Media City, which is a great location to open up. We started it in Jumeirah, again, a very high-end area where people love their cars and spend on their cars. So while the first attempt was a failure, the second and third were successes. So those we keep on still. The Jumeirah outlet, we still have one. That's one of our flagship outlets. And then once you have seen success at one place, it is easier. Then word of mouth, it spreads. So even now, I would say I do make mistakes. I do start, I have taken on this big project, which initially it will take time for me to build it further. Right now, I'm not seeing much money coming in, not much margin coming in, but I know if I persevere, it will come in. So it's an ongoing journey. You can never say I've reached success, I've achieved success and I can stop it. It's an ongoing journey. Excuse me.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
That's all I'm trying to say is you have to keep going at it. Even if you don't succeed in the first attempt, keep going. You will find success. Perseverance always pays.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, for your great words. They were indeed very inspirational.
Thank you.